Well, good morning, everyone. Greetings to you, and welcome to Faith in an Ever Changing World Encouragement and Hope Faith Story. I'm Janet Harley, your host, and with me today, it is my pleasure to introduce Derek and Abby Gaskill. And Derek is retired from professional baseball, Milwaukee Brewers, right out of high school. And then he went on to play professionally with the Toronto Blue Jays and New York Mets as well. And then Abby, right after high school, had the opportunity, she just felt led to her going to Youth Win a mission in Maui, Hawaii. And so, wow, that was an exciting opportunity, Abby. And God actually had plans for them to do ministry together. So we're looking forward to their faith story right after this. Stay with us. And welcome back. And Derek and Abby, if you will, what is your faith story?
Did you want me to go first?
I'll let you lead.
Okay. Well, as you know, like as you stated, I was playing baseball, and I didn't surrender my life, or begin to at least, until I was about 18, 19-ish,
Mhm.
and my best friend's dad became a pastor and took us under his wing. And that led me into a stronger relationship with the Lord. And when I was home, we were serving at his church. We were the youth
Mm,
pastors and so on. And so I got serious about the Lord. And then, and I always thought I was fully surrendered at that point because I was in church and I had the joy of the Lord and so on. But my baseball career, I kept getting better and better and moving up and so on. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, in 1998, on a bus in Vero Beach, Florida, in a New York Mets uniform, the Lord told me I was an evangelist. And I said, no, I'm not.
mm.
And I ran from it. I did not even want to pray in front of people, much less preach. And I knew that's what he
Oh,
was saying because I caught a vision of it. I caught a vision of a crowd, and it scared me to death.
yeah.
And so from then on, nothing in baseball worked out. No matter if I did well or not, it didn't matter. Just one door after another shut in my face. And then at some point, it got to the point where probably 5, 6 years later, nothing in my life was working out because I had ran
Wow.
from what God was telling me, and I was still serving the Lord. I still was trying to be my best for Him and so on, and reading the Bible and praying. Still, it didn't matter. And I realized that something else was going on. And
Ah,
at one point in my life, in about a 4 to 5 month period of time, everyone that was close to me ever, anyone I could ever depend on, in every kind of way, let me down, like in a betrayal type of way, all in the same
right.
amount of time,
Mm,
including baseball, just my world falling apart. And so I was fed up, and I met with my pastor back here at home, and we're on the car ride, and he asked me, how do I feel like Abraham felt when he got to the bottom of the mountain? And if you
mm.
know the story, he
Wow.
goes to the bottom of a mountain. He's getting ready to go to the top of the mountain because he's supposed to sacrifice his son, and
Mm,
which would take a whole lot more faith than I could imagine. See, and I was mad. I was telling my pastor friend the whole time, I'm mad at God. I've never been mad before. I've done
mm.
everything He's wanted me to do. I haven't been perfect, but I've gotten back up when I got knocked down. I'm
Yeah.
sick of it. I know all the Christian cliches. I don't care. And he's just over there shaking his head. And then he tells me about Abraham, and I rolled my eyes.
Yeah.
And then he asked me, he said, how do you feel like, what do you think he felt like when he got to the bottom of the mountain? And as I was saying it, I realized I was preaching to myself and started crying
Oh,
because Abraham was mad. He was fed up. All of his dreams were wrapped up in Isaac.
yeah.
Uh, he knew what he was supposed to do. He had promises, and they were all blowing up in front of him.
Yeah.
And I felt the same way because my two biggest dreams ever were to have a great wife and great family, and then to make it to the majors. And he said, essentially what ended up happening is he said, you need to kill your Isaacs. And I knew that the Isaacs that I needed to be willing to sacrifice in my life
Yeah.
were that relationship with a longtime girlfriend I had at the
Mm.
time that I was holding on to. And then baseball that I was holding on to because I just refused to give up when the Lord was telling me to sacrifice it. And so the relationship I sacrificed within a month and never looked back, really. It wasn't that hard. But baseball took me a year and a half. And then finally when I did, because I felt like my strength was always faith.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a great podcast. I just love it. Faith in an ever-changing world.
Yeah.
And that's what was happening. My whole world was changing. And I
Yeah.
thought I had strong faith. And the Lord's like, it's not as strong as you think it is. Look at Abraham.
Wow.
And so when I finally said, okay, Lord, I'll never, ever pitch again unless you miraculously make it happen. Within a couple weeks, I meet Abbey in church. And as soon as I saw her, I knew it was her. And we go on a date. And on the first date, she said, I don't see you as a baseball player. I see you as an evangelist. And she had no idea. And that was 7 years later, almost to the day. 7 years later from when the Lord had spoken to me down at the beach.
Goodness.
And so deep down, I knew she was the one then, and then that started on our dating process and so on. And so for me, the Lord had to get me to the end of my rope to strengthen my faith more. It's like he was saying, yeah, you've had pretty good faith, but we're going to make it even stronger. And the only way to do that is to lose everything.
Yes.
Where's
Surrender.
your faith at when you lose everything? And then that was a full surrender. And then for the first time ever in my life, I was fully surrendered. So that's my story in a nutshell with that.
Wow. So Abby, so how did God bring you two together, to be in this ministry that you're in now? Yes.
Yeah, so as you said earlier, I was a part of Youth with a Mission in Hawaii. They have thousands of locations around the world, but the only one I knew about was through a friend of mine, and that was the Maui location. Everybody laughs, so it's so hard to go be a missionary in Maui. But it was truly a challenging time because you went through discipleship training for 3 months, and then they send you overseas for a few months. So I spent my time in Uganda, Africa, and loved it. I just knew at 13 years old, actually, that I wanted to be a missionary of some kind. I didn't know what it would look like, but God was stirring my heart. I was going on youth trips with our youth group at a very young age and just fell in love with missions work. So right then, that seed was planted in my heart. But then as I got a little older and I was in YWAM and did the missions, I staffed with YWAM for over a year. I was on a plane ride home to Virginia just to visit family. And I went to go read a book, and I went to pull it out of my backpack on the plane. And God said, put the book down. And I was like, all right. It was about a 5-hour flight that I was sitting on. And he said, you're not going home to be just a visit. You're going home to be there for your family. And that is nothing I wanted to do at the time.
Yeah.
Living in Hawaii.
Living in Hawaii and then coming home. My family is a wonderful family. I come from a excellent family, but life was challenging a little bit at home. There was addiction going on in my family and some struggles and just the heartache of all that comes with it. And so coming home wasn't this exciting thrill to me. And I remember making the decision and calling the people actually that I was living with and telling them it's time for me to come back home and stay. And they were very Holy Spirit filled people, which I love. And they said, we knew it was time. And so God was already moving in their hearts to kind of release me as well and let me come home. So I come home and I'm honestly miserable. I was not at the exact same place he was at, but I was at a place of like, I don't like this. I'm kind of mad at you, God, because I thought you called me to be a missionary and this isn't fun. Like, this isn't exciting to me. This isn't Africa. This is my family and I love them, but I don't want to be in the middle of all of it.
Right.
So I spent some time at home. I'm officially here, and it's about 9 months later that my mom actually invited me to her church. And our story's a little too long, but my mom had been calling me while I was in Hawaii about a guy at her church. And I laughed. I was like, Mom, I'm in Hawaii. I'm good. I don't need a guy at your church in Chesapeake, Virginia. We're good. And long story short, I go to church with her, and during the greeting, he introduces himself and just says hello to me really quickly. And ever since I was like 15 years old, I always prayed, God, if when I meet my husband, like when I really meet him, make my heart race, like do something kind of crazy with my heart so that I know it's him, so I don't make like this bad decision in choosing. And so that day, my heart was racing uncontrollably. I actually had to go to the bathroom and kind of calm down. And so I actually saw him right out the door and of the bathroom. There he was with some of the youth kids. And
I had all the youth boys going all over the whole campus trying to find her and bring her back.
Oh, how about that?
So, and they're searching. I went up to him.
Oh, my goodness.
And I used to work at a hair salon as a receptionist, and he would come in there. And the girl that was doing his hair at the time said, hey, my client was asking about you, but I told him we're actually 11 years apart in age. So I was too young at the time to even talk to me.
And this is before she went to YWAM.
This was before I went off to school in Hawaii and all that good stuff. So,
oh my goodness. Okay. So,
but like I had seen the thread of God letting us meet, but we never had met really to talk and to know each other. And he actually went to school with one of my brothers, but just from a distance, they knew each other. So there was no real connection. So on our first date, it just felt like I'd known him my whole life. And I just love how God does that with your heart. Like he makes you feel like you're connected. Because in other relationships, I never felt comfortable praying with anybody, never felt comfortable talking about the Lord as deeply as we did. Mm-hmm. There was an instant spiritual connection. Yeah. So we just had actually kind of realized when I was on that airplane and God spoke to me and said, you're going home to be there for your family. He did mean that, because there has been some serious moments of me being there for family and them being there for me. Like it's been wonderful. But he mostly meant you're there to build your family. Yeah. And so he's building us and our kids. Wow. And it's been an honor to hear like how God has woven all the details in, but it's been really special for us. And we truly have said, I always said to the Lord, because I saw some messy marriages in our family and he saw lots of messiness as well. And I always said, God, if I'm not going to meet my husband and we're not going to last forever, just don't let me meet him. Like, if it's going to end in divorce, just let me be single. I'll go be a missionary overseas forever. Yeah. Like, I don't want to have it ending and all that. So he's just been really faithful. And even when he takes something away, he always replaces it with something better.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, that is wonderful. That is an incredible story of how God can work in our lives and puts us in the right place with the right people. Yeah. And yes, and if we obey, if we are willing to obey, he will bless. And so now you're in ministry together, and I thank you so much for sharing this beautiful story with us today, Derek and Abby. Thank you for being my guest today. And I thank you all for watching. And I do want to give a shout out to the two networks that my show is on, and so many other shows that and entertainment for you and your family. And that's Creative Motion Network and Abundant Television Network. Thank you also for watching. Have faith and look up, friends, where our help comes from. Bye. God bless.